Okay, welcome back, YouTube. We are recording another live game. This time we're going to play a 10-minute game and try to talk through some ideas as I see them. Keep in mind that, nobody's perfect and, we may miss things, but, hopefully this will be um, instructive for both you and me. Again, we're going to respond to the king pawn with a Sicilian system. This player has challenged my idea of playing the dragon by playing bishop b2 early. So we're going to have to make some adjustments for that. Now, this early knight move is kind of interesting. We're going to capture and simply temporarily block our light square bishop in. Okay, this is a tempo. We're going to come out and pressure here so that we can get our bishop out. Okay, castle. It's an interesting interesting moves by my opponent. Kind of slows me down from playing knight f6, by the way. That's somewhat annoying. Hmm. Let's see if we can encourage a trade. I am on this pawn twice, by the way. All right, so f6. I did not realize until late that I was already being threatened with mate. That was a late realization there. All right, we're going to try to rotate this knight around a different location. Keeping an eye on the e6 square is going to be relevant as well, since I've weakened okay. This dude is doing a lot. I'm not happy with this position. If I play knight back, he could sack on me. I'm going to go with it anyway. I'm going to try to get this knight over here. Still trying to get this knight here. Kind of awkward. The moves are a little bit weird for me, but we'll see what we can come up with. I don't like pushing pawns in front of my king, and this long-term pressure, early pressure from the bishop on b2 is very annoying. So after I tempo his queen, I'm going to probably go ahead and play e5 to see if I can't challenge the square for the bishop. All right, so let's go, especially since the rooks are disconnected. Queen has limited squares. If I push here, this is going to be possibly winning some material. Definitely taking with the bishop if he captures, so that I can release the pressure here with the bishop. Obviously, if... Okay, it's not dangerous. One push is not doing anything. Do I just move my knight here? Do I retreat? I gotta think for a second. think I have to go forward because there is a subtle threat of knight h5 threatening checkmate and working my king and queen. Let's just do it. I don't think I want my opponent to play knight h5. So this move will buy us a few minutes. All right, he's going to try to... Okay, we can just simply check, though. He's on it twice. He's on it 3 times. I'm on it twice. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. Let's just get out of the potential pressure here. All right, should be able to check. No, just take it. All right, that's not dangerous. If I push, what happens? Capture, capture. It's just... Oh, he's on it with the knight. I see. H3, huh? Maybe? I don't know. Just a little reactionary right now. I need to move my f7 rook somewhere. It's retreating. That's actually shocking. So let's just go ahead and blockade the pawn. It is a passed pawn, true story, but I'm gonna pressure this passed pawn. Maybe I just push the f pawn right away. I mean, he's probably taking the pawn now. All right, so if I threaten queen over, could be dangerous, guys. We're on his knight right away, so if we make the knight move, he can't defend us. All right, so pawn push. I can simply check him also. Bishop takes knight, then check. Knight really can't move yet. He's playing pretty well. Managed to get a lot of pieces off the board, and I am down a pawn, but the pawn that I'm down is under attack. It's defended currently 3 times, and I'm only attacking it once. However, I should be able to put pressure on that pawn, especially after playing something like bishop to e5 in the future. Just have to be a little bit careful about what's going on near my king. So if I lift this rook up, he's got check, and that wins a piece. All right, so don't do that. Move my queen. He pushes the pawn. I have to go to the white square. It's a little awkward. I think it's time for us to get this knight off the board. I'm not even joking. It's just doing too much. If I can get rid of one of the pieces threatening my king, I feel like I'll have a little bit easier way. Now, the flip side of that is my bishop is also putting pressure on his king. So if I do manage to keep the bishop on the board, we may be able to muster up an attack of our own. So it's a delicate situation. This pawn is acting as an aggressor in the position. I have to be very careful what happens with my rook. I don't actually have a square that I can move it to right now with the knight on the board. Because there's a threat of knight g6 check. So I can't play rook g8. That would lead to checkmate. I can't play rook f8 because that just wins the exchange. I can't lift the rook up, same reasons. Now if I push, he just takes. If I play bishop takes knight, what does he do? He takes with the pawn. I think I have to do it. Taking the pressure off of my rook. And now we're going to try to beat up on this pawn, unless he goes back, say, to d2 or e2. Just what he does. So I'm going to pin the rook. The pawn is immediately under attack. He's got to do something like c4. Okay. Let's just freeze the pawn. I don't want this pawn moving. All right, we'll start the journey. I'm thinking I'm going to kick his rook. All right, so I can actually go. Where am I going? Hold up. I want to stay close. Let's just go here. If I can push this pawn, this pawn is gone. So if I push, he lets his rook up. I put my king here. He has no way to hold it. What does his queen do? His queen comes this way. If I push this pawn, he captures, I capture. He does check. Let's just push here. All right, so this move... Wait, this move still works, right? He can only take one time. So now I can push, right? I need to stall for a move. Let's just see. What is he going to do? All right, let's just see what this does. I'm not sure. All right, pawn takes pawn. Queen takes pawn. Oh, man. I feel good about this position. He's giving me a tempo to step up on... take this. Now I'm back in the game. All right. Awesome. So now I'm setting up mating ideas, right? The king cannot cross this line. It's going to check me. Let's just go ahead and squeeze him. This pawn push is crucial. I'm queening already. He has to block. That's just GG. What a game. This was a very close game. I'm going to go back and give, by my estimation, where my opponent kind of got derailed. But I was under pressure the entire game. Okay, he resigns. Let's just go back. I'm just going to quickly review this. Obviously, for the record, this move turned out to be, you know, more of a problem than I anticipated at the beginning of the game. This move here also turned out to be a little bit awkward. And I'm not so sure that I would commit to closing my light square bishop out again if I was to play this system over again. I would probably just simply play bishop f5 if I had a second chance. Got a call coming in. Okay, we're going to go ahead and... Okay, so this early check does help us solve one of our problems, which is developing a piece and taking the pressure off of the f6 square. However, keeping that bishop on the board long-term turned out to be more of an issue for me than I expected. I was not expecting f4. Turned out to also be a problem for me long-term. Now, if we notice real closely, that my bishop is only playing on one diagonal, which, you know, in hindsight, I probably could have played something like rook d8 or rook e8 and bishop f8 to try to defend against any pressure on g7 and then just relocate my pieces that way. I didn't anticipate that this bishop was going to be as much of a problem long term. So we continue. I move my bishop, you know, on the only diagonal that it really has, and try to trade queens. And then I make the move that I typically tell my students not to make, and that is avoid pushing pawns in front of your king unless it absolutely stops checkmate. I actually didn't realize that there was a checkmate threat there. However, what could be an alternative move here? Knight f6 does not work because he can simply just take that knight with check, and that's just a free piece. I guess I could have played e5, but then after pawn takes pawn, my queen is under attack. That would have been awkward. So maybe f6 was actually warranted here, because I don't see any other moves to stop the... Well, I could have played g6, which runs into knight f6, forcing my king to... Well, no, knight f6 doesn't actually work. So g6 might have been interesting, even though it does weaken the dart squares. Knight f6 is not a move because the knight and the queen are protecting that square. However, he would have been able to play queen h4 right away, putting 3 pieces on the f6 square and possibly leading to an eventual mate. So yeah, that doesn't feel right either. So maybe I found the best move, f6, which is extremely uncomfortable. And the fact that I have to go through all of these variations kind of speaks to the fact that I'm already in trouble. And he has an early advanced threat of opening up the f file. So all of this is kind of favoring white, which is why I'm so uncomfortable in the position. He brings in his last piece for the attack, putting its rook on a semi-open file, which is something that I do recommend and encourage. I think that's a good move. I'm still trying to defend against the potential attack on my dart squares, which is the same reason, by the way, that I enjoy putting my bishop on this diagonal. Now I'm having to defend against it. He's placed his queen on h5, again pressuring dart squares. There's a lot of heat on the dart squares, guys, and it is definitely an uncomfortable feeling. My idea, again, like I said during the game, was to try to see if I can't relocate his queen off of the pressure point, and he tickles my queen first. we're holding the pawn. That's basically the only move that we had. We could have played queen g6, but we would have lost. Well, we wouldn't have lost the pawn. Actually, the knight's protecting it, but the queen g6 blocks the square for our knight, which is where we really wanted to do. He's lifting his rook. Now, this move I didn't agree with. I felt like lifting the rook, even though he could potentially be planning on doubling, gives me the opportunity to start my attack, and I do with knight g6 hitting his queen. He runs over to the G file, and then now I'm going to try to start neutralizing the pressure on the dart squares. So he chooses not to capture, but he pushes his pawn, which permanently locks the pawns down, neutralizing his bishop. And now I have to figure out, where do I want my knight to live? And the squares that we have as choices aren't the most promising. I tend to favor going forward than retreating, which is probably why I ended up playing knight f4. I just don't like going backwards. Knight h4 just loses the piece right away. And obviously it does take away one offensive square for his knight. He comes back and says, hey, I want to get rid of my now useless bishop for your knight. And I don't mind. I don't mind that. And this is the beginning of me starting to get some relief, even though his knight is super active and I'm in danger of losing a pawn. So I rather protect my king than worry about losing a pawn. It's doubled anyway, and I can't really defend this 3 times, and it's already under attack 3 times. So there's no need in spending any energy on trying to defend that. He doesn't take it because there's no reason, no way for me to defend. Even if I was to play something like g5, which is weakening of my king, pawn captures, and then possibly rook takes, he's still able to grab this pawn later. So I fake like I'm trying to protect this pawn, and he tickles my queen with his rook. And now I'm just staying on this diagonal because, you know, even after he takes the pawn, playing something like g5 or g6 could be interesting. So he strangely moves his rook back. I'm not even sure. I guess he's still trying to double his rooks. He's trying to connect his rooks, but I do have this move. I don't know if I saw this in the game. I actually could have played... Wow, I missed this in the game. I could have just sacrificed the pawn that was already doomed right now. To what end, though? It just allows a check. I don't know if that's interesting or not, but I do see it now in hindsight. So instead, I challenge his rooks. We get a pair of rooks off, and unfortunately for me, an advanced pass pawn is extremely dangerous with him already having a queen and a knight near my king. I argue that 3 or more pieces near the king, there should be a checkmate. So, you know, I've managed to get some pieces off the board, but I didn't relax or relieve the pressure on my king. So I'm still in trouble. We're dancing a little bit. This was a very strong move because it sets up 2 different attacks. My rook is immediately under attack, and then I can't move my rook to any square without him forking it. So the only move that I really have in the position is to retreat my queen, because simply moving my rook out of the way falls into an early e7 push, which is going to lose some material. So we do bring our queen back. And then he lifts his rook, which I thought was odd, which allows me to just grab this knight. And now that's a huge relaxation on the pressure on my king. So he can't mate me with just a queen alone. So I take this opportunity to just get some squares from my king. And he retreats, trying to protect his pawn. I go ahead and pin the rook. He gets out of the pin. I blockade the pawn. I don't want this pawn to go any further. And not so sure why this pawn push was made, but we're going to go ahead and move our king forward. Pin the king again. And now prepare to take advantage of the pin. We call this putting pressure on the pin piece. This move does not, queen e3 does not prevent me from putting pressure on the pin piece. He goes forward. So now I'm just stalling. He's running out of moves. He can't really push here, and this move is a little bit sus, and pushing here is sus, and he can't push here, and he really doesn't have anywhere to put his rook. So he's being zugzwanged, so he makes the only move that he can. I capture, he grabs with the rook, and now I grab another pawn. Fortunately for me, the rook is in a position to hold these pawns. We really don't care about check, which is what he did. I'm sorry, he took the pawn and then he checked me, allowing me to get the free move on his pawn. He goes and tickles my only pawn that can be attacked, and that's easy for me to do. A blockade. This is a 1v2 over here on the queen side. So that one pawn is stopping two pawns. We enjoy that. He decides to slide his rook over and attack a pawn that's already defended and allowing me to grab another pawn. So we grab it. The king is retreating. At this point, you know, the moves that he's making is I don't want to call them terrible, but they're grossly suspect compared to how he played in the beginning of the game. It just feels like every move that he's making now is just allowing me to, you know, gain an advantage. So I'm, you know, putting his king in a box is my idea. You know, I have mating material and I'm closing in. His rook is just, you know, moving around the board. I have no interest in trying to stop him from queening. I'm going to mate him before he gets any queening going on. So squeezing him again, I want to be able to push this pawn. I guess I could have just pushed it anyway. And now already he can't go to these squares, right? Well, he could go to this one, but I take away that square now. And I'm not worried about king here, by the way, because I just simply check him back into the box, and then I just shove this pawn down for check and mate. So he doesn't have that as an option. He chooses to push the pawn, which does nothing, because even if he was to come here, I could just take it if I want it, but I don't want it. And I go ahead and set up the actual coup de grace, because we're threatening check if he steps here. Wait, actually, what will we do here? We don't want to check. What will we do? Check, and he steps here is kind of annoying. Maybe I don't do that. My intent during the game was to check him here, but now I'm not so sure. Maybe I just play rook here, and rook here. I mean, how does he defend that? Oh, I know what I do. I just play rook here and then check and mate. Sorry. Rook here, followed by, I'm assuming he's going to block. So let's rook here and then check and mate. All right, there we go. So with that said, I think I would have found that in the game. I'm not so sure why I stumbled on that now. But, you know, hopefully if you enjoy the thought process and some of the ideas, even when I'm losing, you know, I'm hoping to share those ideas. Make sure you give us a like and a subscribe. And please, if you see something in the game that I didn't see, please leave a comment.